Hi all, welcome back to the final whistle then for another stream on the channel. The second stream this evening, by the way, is this managerial vacancy at Leicester City. I think it's just hotting up, to be honest. Welcome to everybody to the channel. If you're new around here, subscribe to the channel, push that notification bell, tell you every time we are live. Marti Cifuentes versus Chris Wilder. These two look like the final two, and I've got the perfect people for this stream. I've got Ollie from Sheffield United way, and I've got James from Hoops and Dreams. He is a QPR fan. He'll give me the lowdown on Marti Cifuentes. So, yeah, we're going to get them both in a second. Reese, how are we, mate? Looking forward to this one. Done some digging on the QPR manager. I'm impressed. Cifuentes all day long. Is Cifuentes a good manager? Well, I'm going to give that to James to answer that one. You said earlier Leicester had another card to play. I did. I do hear quite a few things from different people. And I said there's one more card to play for Leicester City, and I think they've dealt that hand. Evening, Jack. The club is a joke, mate. Well, I am here. You are busy, Jack, mate. I'm very busy. O'Neill 4-7 Cifuentes. Interesting. Right. Like I say, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get involved as always. We will bring people in shortly in that. But let's get my guests in. Ollie from Sheffield United way. Hello, Ollie. How are we?
Hi, Jack. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, mate. I'm interested in what this kind of conversation is going to look like, because two really good Championship managers who, yeah, it'll be interesting, because obviously I see you as one of our direct rivals. So hopefully you get this one wrong.
Well, I could have said that about Jamie Vardy, mate. We're not gonna give you any bad memories about that one. Know nothing about the manager. Is the best of the bunch. Evening, Clibbo. James from Hoops and Dreams. How are we, James?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on. I'm a bit surprised by this. I didn't even know Marti Cifuentes had been linked to you until you sent me a message saying could have come on. So yeah, interesting times.
Do you know what? I heard a few things earlier from a journalist who works in London, and I said to him, "There's an unnamed man Leicester City haven't mentioned." And I said, could it be Marti Cifuentes? Because Michael Carrick I weren't really keen on, but then I thought the Enzo style of football would have been close to Cifuentes. So I thought Cifuentes is out of a job. He was linked with West Brom. Mutual consent, I believed he left Queen's Park Rangers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then I said, well, we had the chat, and he said ... And I was like, okay, well, we'll read about it. And then obviously John Percy's now come out and said that he's the strong contender. The talks are very well ongoing. And then I think Ben Jacobs said about him advanced with Leicester. So what can you tell me on Marti Cifuentes?
I think the big question mark if he goes to Leicester is going to be expectations on him, aren't they? Because at QPR, from when he joined us, there was no expectations whatsoever. If he could draw a game, it was better than what we'd been doing before. So that's been the difference for us. He got the fans behind him straight away. He's not going to have that at Leicester, is he? He's going to have expectations from day one. If he has a ropey start, let's say you get to the end of August, you've not won a game, people are going to be questioning his appointment straight away. He's never had that at QPR, even for one game, really. He's had the fans completely behind him. So that's going to be the question mark at Leicester. Are you going to give him time? I have no doubt he's a good manager. I wish he was still at QPR, to be honest. I'm disappointed that he left. But it's that step up to Leicester, isn't it? Especially after the last month, because after he left QPR, there's almost been a question mark now. Was he going to go abroad? Has his stock fallen because of the way he left QPR?
Yeah.
So for him to actually get probably one of the bigger jobs that he could possibly get in this country, if he gets it, yeah, interesting for you, that's for sure.
Talk to me about Gareth Ainsworth left. He came in. What is he like to work with? I mean, youth-wise, and obviously Leicester have got a lot of youth players. Jeremy Monger, Jake Evans, people like we are looking to bring through the academy and that into the first team to really utilise them this season in the Championship. What is it like when regarding young players at Queen's Park Rangers when he were there?
Yeah, he's used youth players. We had Kieran Morgan come through last season, Ryan Coley. He's used them. The probably is the question mark sometimes is, has he used them because of injuries and because he had no one else left to play and then it's just worked out, or has he actually been the one to say, I want to play this young player? I suspect it's probably because he was forced to play them.
Fair
But there's a remit at QPR now to have to develop young players. That's got to be our blueprint. Buy the young players, develop them, sell them. And he has played a part in that. Whether it's what he wanted to do or not, again, it's a big question mark. But he's done well. We have got quite a few young players in the team. I think our average age was lower than a few teams in the league. So he was working with young players. There's no doubt about it. But like I say, a lot of the time he didn't have any other choice but to use them. So like we had no strikers last season for one example. So in playing Ryan Coley up front, he comes in and scores a few goals. Is that Marti Cifuentes being a genius, or is it just because he was the player he had to play? It's one of those.
Ole, talking from a neutral perspective, you've obviously watched Cifuentes, you've covered him majority in the Championship. What's been your initial thoughts of Marti Cifuentes on the job he did at QPR?
Yeah, I think he's done a fantastic job, to be honest. You know, we referenced it a little bit there, but when Ainsworth leaves, I mean, if it wasn't for Wednesday being so bad, I think everybody would have been talking about how poor QPR had started that season. Because I think it something like 8 points from 12 games, something like that. And it had been a really, really poor start. 8 from 14. And so for him to turn that around, I think he ended up getting about 1.5 points per game. Really impressive. And the way that he built it as well, because that first season in particular, I thought QPR looked so solid defensively. He really built you on the back of give no chances away and then hurt teams on the counter and on the break. And so I thought it was really impressive to see the way that he's developed the job. And I do think that of the managers in the Championship over the last 2 years, 18 months, the job that Cifuentes has done is probably only second to the one that Danny Roll's done just down the road at Sheffield Wednesday. So he's definitely Championship hot property. And yeah, I think it's a really good appointment. I think it'd be really smart. I think he's a really good Championship manager.
James, styles of football. What is his style of football? Is it possession? Is it attack? How is he? Is he charismatic? Is he a pragmatic type of manager? How would you really sum him up, and what is his style of football?
His style of football, if he said it himself, is Cruyffian football. He's like graduated from Spain through Barcelona, but all that had to go out of the window at QPR because he had to play to get results. So he first came in, and you could see them warming up. He'd be goalkeeper to one centre back, to the other centre back, to the left back, back to the centre back. He wants to play out from the back. He had to abandon it though. We had then Jimmy Dunn, well documented at right back, and he would play the ball out to him because he knew Asmir Begovic, who we had at the time, couldn't play out like that. So he proved himself to be really adaptable, and he did that in both of his seasons. If something wasn't working, he would change. His principle though will be possession football, high pressing, but it just couldn't really play the way he wanted to at QPR because he tried to do it again last summer through pre-season. We had some pretty ropey results. He started the season again. We had one win in, I think it was 18 games because he was trying to play his way. And it wasn't all his fault though. We had a lot of foreign players. We tried to scout all our players last summer from Europe. So they all come in, didn't know the league. And whilst they were adapting, he was trying to play his way, playing out from the back. It was too slow. We couldn't get the ball forward. We weren't scoring goals. So again, got to around November time. He had to put it all out the window to play the way to get points and wins in the Championship. So at Leicester, there's probably going to be the players to enable him to play the way he wants to, which would be, like I say, Cruyffian football. That's his ideal. There's a very good thing on YouTube of him talking about his philosophy that's worth every Leicester fan watching if he does get appointed. That's the way he wants to play. But it wasn't the QPR way whilst he was there. At times we were quite direct. We had to play to our strengths to get points. He knew what he needed to do. But I thought that was always a good trait though. He didn't just stick to what he thought was this is my way and that's it. He kept changing things. He didn't particularly change formation, but he would change the way he was playing his football to get us to safety both seasons basically.
This is, as Leicester fans, what we want to see. Someone who's adaptable, who can go from plan A to plan B. Johan Cruyff football, I mean, that guy was a fantastic player, one of the greatest in football. If he's got us playing like that, we'll be off our seats probably every game thinking, you know what, we've got something to look forward to here. Someone what's he like with the fans? How does he build that connection with the fans? Obviously at Leicester at the minute, the board and the fans are not really seeing eye to eye. What is he like regarding building that relationship and the bond with the supporters?
Yeah, he's been fantastic at QPR. That he's genuinely the most popular manager we've had since Neil Warnock. You're going to get some QPR fans now who are a bit salty and say, "Oh, he's a snake and he's left and he was talking to other clubs." But you go back a few months, undoubtedly the most popular manager we've had, possibly even more popular than Neil Warnock, because even he had his critics at the time. Marti Cifuentes basically kept his job last November because the fans loved him. We were bottom of the table, and everyone was just singing Marti Cifuentes, the song at the home game against Stoke. And it kept him in his job because of how popular he was with the fans. And I think it just comes down to, again, at QPR, got to say, it's because he followed Gareth Ainsworth. So we were happy to embrace anybody. But you watch any of his like pre-match interviews, his post-match interviews, he's got a nice way of talking. He comes across well in all the time. If you've ever watched any of his interviews, like if he's been on QPR matches or on Sky or whatever, he's never going to come across as arrogant, brash or anything like that. He just comes across as a guy who loves football, wants the best for his team. He'll never throw players under the bus, particularly anything like that. And the fans at QPR just, like I say, he's not even particularly someone who, at the end of games, is going over and doing all the like punching his chest and all this stuff. He just would go around and clap. But he just really fit QPR. But again, that's the thing, isn't it? He fit QPR. We loved him, embraced him. At Leicester, you're going to want results. I keep coming back to that, but if you lose the first home game of the season, there's going to be people saying, "Why we appointed this bloke straight away?" There was never going to be that. It's that step that is, for me, I keep saying it probably, but it's the big question mark, isn't it?
I think with Leicester fans, Ollie, at the minute, is very much nobody knows anything about Cifuentes. I've obviously analysed him and watched him when Leicester were in the Championship and what he did at QPR, turned it around. It looked like a sinking ship, didn't it, when he took over from Gareth Ainsworth? A lot of work to do, a lot of players to really get on side. Do you think he really did that? Is that something you think he could offer at Leicester, getting the players on side during like pre-season and that and getting his real point across?
Yeah, completely. I do think one of the things that seems to come across to me is it's very late in the summer that Leicester have come to make these decisions. You know, you're almost pre-season's already started. There's only 4 weeks till the first game. It's a very late decision to be making in terms of allowing him to come in, develop his style of football, really impose that onto the fans and onto the players so that they know what to expect. But the impact he made at QPR so quickly coming in mid-season means that it does seem as though he can build that rapport, build that relationship and build the tactical understanding with those players at pace and do it quickly. So even with a quite shortened pre-season to start to work with the players, it does seem as though he would be able to get his message across as long as those players are going to buy into exactly what it is that he's doing. Because one thing from the outside looking in, the one thing for me is how different the Leicester managerial recruitment seems to be. You know, Chris Wilder, Marti Cifuentes, Danny Röhl, Gary O'Neill, Ruud van Nistelrooy. I'm struggling to see what the thread is. You know, what are the owners looking for here? They're just picking names out of a hat.
I agree.
Can I just add on there what you're saying? Yeah. I think he's got a really good chance of being able to go in there and change things quickly. You're talking about him having a short time frame. He came in from after Gareth Ainsworth, as we keep saying, but we weren't even getting out of our own half in games. And with the same group of players, he was able overnight to get us our first home win, build blocks. So we were keeping clean sheets then. So I know he's talking about a short time frame. I believe that's possibly his strength. He doesn't need a long time. Like last November, he realised things weren't going to plan. He changes something and we start getting results very quickly. So that, and he's obviously going to be very keen to prove himself as well. This would be a massive move for him. He won't be wanting to let himself down or Leicester down. This is his big break, effectively, isn't it, in this country if he gets the job? So I think you've got big ticks there.
Do you think he's a long-term manager?
No. Based on how it ended at QPR, I'd have to say no, because if you look at his track record, he's only ever been at clubs for 18 months, 2 years. Yeah. There's rumours that he was even putting his nose out, feelers around last summer to try and get away from QPR, obviously because maybe what he was seeing behind the scenes. But there's no denying he's got towards the end of this season. He's been looking elsewhere, possibly again because he realised he's maybe hit a ceiling at QPR and whatever. Again, he's maybe fallen out with Christian Nori, our CEO, but it just seemed to have that track record. He goes to a club, he gets them to a point, and then he'll be looking to leave. Might be different at Leicester if, for example, you were to get promotion, you're in a different league, aren't you? The shelf life of any manager now is very short when you do that, but even for himself, it looks like he's only got that 2-year window at a club, really.
Ilias Chair, one that Leicester have been linked with in the past. Talking what Armchair said, did he make Ilias Chair a better player?
He actually, in his first season, he got the best out of Ilias Chair. So when he came in after Ainsworth, that was the key thing that Ainsworth was getting wrong. We had Chris Willock, Ilias Chair. Yeah. Anyone who was even seeing half an hour of a QPR match knew they were our best two players. And Ainsworth was messing about, playing Chair the wrong position, not even playing Chris Willock. So Cifuentes came in, he just put his arm around both of them, basically made Ilias Chair the main man. So the end of 22-23, it was 23-24, wasn't it? Yep. Ilias Chair was fantastic, the main man under Cifuentes. Last season, he was out injured constantly. He was in for 7 games, out for 7 games. He never got going all season. So hard to say he made him a better player last season, just because Chair didn't feature as much as we would have all hoped. But there's no doubting when he first came in, he knew which players were going to be his key men, made them the focal point and helped us to turn it around.
Ollie, do you think that with Cifuentes potentially could take Ilias Chair to Leicester?
Well, I mean, obviously it depends on what you're looking to recruit, the kind of players that you're trying to bring in. But if they've got that pre-existing relationship, obviously maybe soured over the last 12 months, as James was just saying there, that he didn't have the best sort of 24-25 season, but one to keep an eye on, and he's definitely an exciting player if you can get him.
What is now, people talk about mutual consent, sacking, gardening leave. What was the real reason, James, that he did leave? I know that West Brom was a squad that was very interested in him last season. What was the real reason that he did leave? Because Alex Crook talks about him maybe looking at his compensation at QPR. What is the real reason in Cifuentes' departure?
You see, like I said, I meant to try and touch on before, but Christian Nori, our CEO, they just seem to have come to loggerheads in the second half of this season. So we had a lot of injuries last season, Ilias Chair being one of them. And it was because our director of performance was based in Dubai. So I'm not sure how you can assess anyone's injuries on a laptop from there. But I think Marti Cifuentes was very unhappy with that situation. Possibly also unhappy that last summer they're trying to recruit and give him players rather than him having his own say in things. And again, it comes down to him hitting that ceiling at QPR where he feels he's got to. I think it's undeniable he was potentially talking to other clubs. And Christian Nori, whilst they've been falling out, has kind of used that as an excuse to say, we're putting you on gardening leave because you're in breach of your contract or whatever it was that they're deeming it to be. We then had 2 months where we heard absolutely nothing until we appointed a new manager, obviously Julian Stefan. And it's almost like they've had to come to some agreement with Marti Cifuentes to at least make it look more amicable, just so we can get our new manager in and get our ball rolling with the season, because it was an awkward situation. But it seems to be him falling out with the CEO and just starting to look elsewhere, potentially because just he didn't feel he was either as wanted at QPR by the powers that be anymore. And also, like I keep saying, buddy, how far can you get QPR? We've got the same points total the last 2 seasons as he realised this is as good as it's ever going to get here. It's one of those.
Is it a compensation thing then, or can Leicester just get him for free? Is it a free man to go and join another club?
My perspective would be you've got a free man. From the minute we put him on gardening leave, the consensus among QPR fans as well, that's our last chance of getting any money for him, because he was an asset to QPR. We should have let the clubs come to us and we would have had to say to them, okay, if you want him, he's going to cost you. By us putting him on garden leave and now we've got a new manager in place, we can't demand any money for him because we're paying him. They're going to be happy to get him off the books, or they've said it's mutual consent that he's left, but presumably we are probably still paying him his wages, or we've agreed to pay him so much until he gets a new job. So why would we stand in the way of that now and demand compensation? We're going to want to not have to pay him for the next year or whatever it may be. So I imagine he's as free as a man can be in this situation.
Ollie, you know quite a bit about Cifuentes. What would you say to Leicester fans would be his pros and his cons?
It's an interesting one. I think for me particularly obviously at this level, the cons are that unknown quantity of coming into the top of the Championship. I think the job that he's done with QPR, and I think this is his biggest pro, is that pragmatism to have tried something, obviously has his idealistic way of working. He says, this is the way I want to play. When it hasn't worked, he's got it in him to just transition to find the solutions. And I think that's something that, as teams that have been into the Premier League, got relegated, gone back, got relegated, we know that you have to have that pragmatism about you. If you've got a manager going in with one ideal, that can get picked apart so quickly and so easily. So I think his pragmatism is the real number one pro that gives me a lot of confidence he will find the right solution for the players at Leicester to get the most out of them and to get the right results. I think the con is that we've not seen it tested at the top. So I don't know if he's going to try and bring in his own style. I don't know if it works because I've never seen him successfully implement it because of obviously the limitations he's had around him at QPR. And the second part of that is, and you can judge whether this is a pro or a con yourself, it's probably only going to be an 18-month arrangement. He's either going to get you promoted and then probably leave while you're in the Premier League, or it's going to all come crashing down in the next 12 months. This isn't a long-term plan for Leicester. And I think that for me is one of the biggest cons because at the moment with the off-field issues, a long-term plan might be something that the club would be sensible to consider.
Fair enough. James, I've got 2 questions for you. Backroom staff. What's his backroom staff?
It'll probably just be Xavi Khan, his assistant manager. He was at QPR. We're led to believe Marti Cifuentes is more the attacking coach and Xavi Khan is more his defensive coach, and they very much were a team when he was here. Xavi Khan had to take charge of 2 matches, the last game of the season after Marti had been put on gardening leave and one in the middle of the season when Marti Cifuentes was ill. But they always came across very, very much as a duo. So I'll be absolutely amazed if he doesn't bring Xavi Khan with him. The rest of his staff have all been like appointments by the club. So anyone around him hasn't been his staff. And that could be potentially one of his reasons why he was never as happy at QPR, because we're very much operating the model of you are the head coach. You do what you're told. These are your players. This is your staff. You can even see it already. The day we announced Julian Stefan, we had Steve Bold coming in as a defensive coach. Clearly not anything to do with Julian Stefan. This is Steve Bold's coming in. He's your defensive coach. So Marti Cifuentes, Xavi Khan, bald fella. You've probably seen him next to him every day for the last 2 seasons, but he's very astute as well. Comes across well. There's interviews of them together when they announced last season that Marti Cifuentes has a new deal. It had Xavi Khan next to him in all the announcements, sat with him. That's like they've both agreed to continue at QPR. So very much a package deal. And he's basically surplus to requirements now, Xavi Khan at QPR, because obviously we've got Julian Stefan and he's already brought in Alou Diarra as his first team coach assistant. So yeah, it'll be Xavi Khan who comes with him.
One more I want to ask you is about formation. What is his preferred formation, and when it does come to adaptive? Because some managers go with the stronger sides, and then for the other sides, they'll sort of go with a different approach. What's he like? Is it one formation, or can he sort of alternate?
No, this was his biggest criticism, and it's something we've actually spoke about when we've been talking about Julian Stefan coming in.
Okay.
Is the fact that Marti Cifuentes played the same formation 100% of his games. I mean, someone's probably going to say he didn't in one game, but literally, like, it was 4-3-3 every game, and it's either 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, whichever way you want to look at it. But it's going to be that shape, because a lot of the time when we after Ainsworth, we were saying, is he going to move to a 3 at the back? Sometimes if we were struggling for results, he never shifted his formation. Like I say, he'd move players around, slightly adapt their roles within it, but it was never changed basically from that. You can have 4 defenders, either 1 or 2 holding midfielders, 2 wide men, a number 10 and a striker. We never played with 2 strikers, apart from maybe a game when we were, I think Plymouth at home, we were against, they had 10 men and he put 2 strikers up front. But apart from that, it just didn't happen. It's always very, very similar. And that was maybe a criticism of him, but it's what he's played at his previous clubs as well.
One last question from Daz. For me, does he promote the youth? As we all know what potential we have. I don't really know the guy, but if the feedback is that good, let's give him a chance. I say, not convinced on the other names myself, is what Daz is saying. How would you answer Daz's question, James?
Well, yeah, like I said before, he will give youth a chance. There's no doubt in that. And I think for where Leicester are, you've kind of got yourselves up against the wall a little bit because, like Ollie said before, you're 4 weeks away from the season starting. Your managers aren't really changing places at this time, so your shortlist is going to be small. It's going to be the managers who are available.
It is.
Exactly. And of those who are available, Marti Cifuentes is one who ticks the box of the potential is there. He could come in and be a breath of fresh air. He's going to come in with ideas. He's got, like I say, he seems like a very astute football person. He's clearly very tactically aware of things. He talks about like wanting to press teams out wide so they don't have the ball in the middle, and you'll like everything he says. So, like I say, he's going to tick that box. He's available. He's cheap. He knows the league. He knows the 3-game weeks. He knows the players in the league. And he's got this thing of, was he doing a good job at QPR? Yes. Can he take the step up? You'll find out, won't you, this season?
Like John says, if he had to exciting, then a Maresca clone, hard to get excited and behind Wilder or Dyche.
Exactly, yeah. He's not one of the tried and tested names. He's someone who he could go in there and be amazing. Whereas the others, you kind of know what you're going to get. Whereas Cifuentes, he is exciting because you could hit the ground running and you're going to be like, wow, what a manager this guy is. And you're all going to take to him anyway because, like I say, the way he comes across, he's just got a very likeable guy. So just a few good wins, Leicester will be flying, I have no doubt.
Appreciate it. James, all the best for the season next season. Hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon, but I'll let you go. I know you're a busy man. But what's coming up on Hoops and Dreams?
We've had quite a few shows recently, obviously with the manager changing, but it'll just be our season preview. And then throughout the season, we have a preview before every game. And obviously Leicester and Sheffield United are going to be 2 of those this season. So yeah, lots to look forward to.
Appreciate it. Cheers, James. All the best, mate.
No worries. Appreciate you having me on. Cheers, all.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Ollie, right. One man that John has mentioned is Chrissy Wilder. People call it fossil football. It is in its finest. Leicester fans haven't really talked to the Chris Wilder link, to be fair, I'll be honest. He has got promotion in his repertoire. What's been your thoughts on Chris Wilder? He is a name that Leicester have looked at. They have interviewed. It looks like a Marti Cifuentes versus Chris Wilder. It now looks like the final 2 with Roll being ruled out, Sean Dyche, and today Gary O'Neill. What is your initial thoughts on the Chris Wilder one with Leicester?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. Chris Wilder at Sheffield United, we're a match made in heaven. Let's not pretend otherwise. Every time he's come back to Bramall Lane, he's delivered something special for us, effectively, you know. And, you know, there is a reputation around Chris Wilder, the fossil football or the old style. But United under Wilder were never really that, to be honest. I think we were always something different to what teams expected from us. The first time that he was at Bramall Lane, he was tactically revolutionary. You know, people talk about the different things, but Sheffield United developed overlapping centre-backs. That's a thing that through the 5 years of his first run with the club, United really brought that to the fore. We had players doing it in the Premier League. We were flying in the Premier League at the time. And he really did change a lot of the way that people talked about certain positions in football because he is forward-thinking, he is positive, tactically he's sensible. The concern I would have is that while he does do all of that, and I love him to bits, he works better with a certain type of player. There are players that he really succeeded with at Bramall Lane. We're talking about Mark Duffy and Billy Sharp and Chris Basham. These are old journeymen English footballers who he's got to the absolute max and he has pushed them to the top of their game the most they're going to achieve. But when we recruited maybe the more expensive players, the Ryan Brewster, Sander Berger, all of those kind of players, that's when it started to fall apart. The expensive signings, the bigger egos, he really struggled to manage. And that would be my because I think he'd do a fantastic job. You know, we talked there about how exciting it is for Cifuentes. Yeah. I think if you get Cifuentes, there's quite a disparity. He could be amazing and he could take you to the title and all kinds of success. But he has a flaw that I don't know what it is. There's every chance that he could also have you sat 15th and you'd go, we kind of saw it coming, we took a gamble. I think if you were to go for Chris Wilder, he'd have you somewhere between probably 4th and 8th. I can give you a very clear line on exactly where you'd sit. And so it's not as exciting. It's maybe not as aiming for the stars, but it gives you a very clear baseline. He's a good Championship manager who would try his best to deliver for the club.
Two players I want to talk to you about, Hamza Chowdhury and Harry Souttar under Chris Wilder. Which one do you want to go with first? Because Hamza...
Can we talk about Harry Souttar? Please. I love him.
Before he got injured. What was he like in a back three with Chris Wilder's football?
So we actually transitioned last season to a back four. So he was just playing in sort of a standard back four, which we would expect. But Harry Souttar was... If Harry Souttar doesn't get injured, Sheffield United win the Championship last year. I am so confident in that statement. He was absolutely outstanding from the start. He just never put a foot wrong. His passing was always on point. He always could find the long diagonals over the top. He could find the short passes into midfield. Nobody ever gets the better of him. He just wins every single duel. And I have nothing but praise. If he was fit and we could guarantee he'd be available for the first game of the season in August, I would have been screaming at the top of my lungs for us to go and give you whatever money you wanted to make him our starting centre-back again next season, because he was outstanding. And Wilder really did know how to use him. If you followed the Championship last season, you'll have seen that Burnley broke all kinds of defensive records in terms of the level that they were at. Well, until Harry Souttar's injury, our defensive record was identical to Burnley's. We had conceded the same number of goals, same clean sheets. We weren't letting anything in. It was only after he got injured that we then started conceding over 1 goal per game. And that's a testament to the impact he had on us. I can't speak highly enough about how good he was.
Hamza. Let's talk about Hamza. He was versatile last season for you lot, midfield, right back, wherever you wanted to play him, he'd play. He did that for Leicester. How exciting was Hamza when he come in on loan? How good of a job did he do for Sheffield United? I thought he did well in that playoff game while I watched.
He did. He was a really, really steady player for United. Hamza Chowdhury is a player who I've had my eye on for years. We played you probably third game of the season, I think it was, after we got promoted in 2019. He played centre midfield for you at Bramall Lane, and he absolutely dominated the game. He would have only been a young lad, 19, something like that, and he was absolutely outstanding that day. And from that day forwards, whenever anyone has said to me, "What do you want from a midfielder?" I said, "I want Hamza Chowdhury. I'd just love us to sign Hamza Chowdhury." And he finally came in last season, and it was great to see him. But he was at his best at right back, if we're being honest with ourselves. I think when he played central midfield, he was too deep. He was trying to receive the ball from the centre halves so that he could be sort of the progressive passer. But Hamza Chowdhury is not really a progressive passer. That's not the game that he's trying to play. It's just not what he does. And so he really sort of forced us to be too deep when he was playing in central midfield. But once he went to right back, there wasn't a single winger in the league who got the better of him. He just had his man locked down every single time. It meant you could play a winger in front of him who could be as attacking as you like. Jez Raksaki for us last year was just an out-and-out winger, always looking to attack. And with Chowdhury behind him, didn't have to worry about any of the defensive problems. I thought the playoff final, you referenced it there, still makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit to think about it, if I'm being honest. But I thought he was outstanding on the day. I thought he was one of our sort of potential man of the matches, and when I thought we were going to win, he was a player I was going to shout out as being one of the key reasons why.
One player I want to discuss with you, Tom Cannon. How shit was he?
Awful.
one goal in 17 games, was it, Ollie? I know Sheffield United fans said, "Have you got that receipt, Leicester City?" Because they wanted a refund, £10 million with £3 million add-ons if you got to the Premier League. We'll take the 10 million, by the way. Thanks for doing business. He's not a Premier League player. He's a Championship player at best, in my opinion.
I'm certain he's a football player. Never mind a level of football player.
Sheffield United, it never ever worked, did it? How bad was it?
It's. Let's say it's too early to judge him. I'll give him some benefit of the doubt, but he was really bad last season. If I'm honest, he just never was involved in the game. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and I don't want to be harsh to the lad because, he's young, he's a new signing. We're hopeful that we'll play more to his style going forwards. And it was really hard for him at the time he came into United. But he had one contribution to our season last year, and that was that we subbed him on in the 85th minute of the playoff final. He never touched the ball. He injured our centre-half, so he was off the pitch. And while our centre-half was off the pitch, Sunderland scored.
Unbelievable, honestly.
Yeah, £10 million that cost us, and then £80 million for promotion.
Cost you a lot of money. What's Wilder like regarding youth? Because there's a friend of mine who lives in Sheffield. He knows a lot about United, Wednesday, Rotherham, whoever it is. He's like a bloody Yorkshire correspondent when it comes to it. Is Ross. So, what is Wilder like with youth? Because we've got a good youth setup at Leicester, and we're very looking to utilise it next season with Monger and that, and Jake Evans and players that we can use. What is he like with the youth, Chris Wilder?
So I'd say there's two sides to him. The first time that Wilder was at United, never used it, never looked at our youth system at all. For the first 5 years, we were on a continuous upward trajectory, and it might be that the first team just outgrew the youth players, but we just didn't use them at all at that first time. That changed last season. Since his return to the club 18 months ago, obviously, he's done a really good job in bleeding our really exciting youth talents into the first team. So he's given Andre Brooks, he gave him his first start. He became a regular both in the Premier League, then in the Championship last season. Really exciting young winger. Ollie Arblaster, he's made our club captain, despite only sort of being with the club 6 months, and at 20 years old, he really put a lot of faith into him as a young player. When Arblaster got injured, he brought through Siddy Peck, a player who, to be honest, I expected nothing from. I expected him to go out on loan to Rotherham and we'd all kind of forget about him. And he became one of our star men last season. So he's really started to turn it around. I think last year we probably ended up with 4 or 5 youth academy graduates in every sort of squad for every game, whether that's on the bench or in the starting 11. We always had a really big core of youth prospects and academy graduates. So I think he's really started to develop his style on that. And I think when the owners have said to him, we want you to work with the youth more, he's really put a lot of passion and commitment into that project. So he seems a different man to who he was in 2020, but one who's much more likely to trust the youth.
Style of football. I mean, people would say he's a free at the back type of man, Chris Wilder. What is he like with style of football? What is his approach to the game?
Pragmatic, I think, maybe is the way of describing this best. You know, the first time we had Chris Wilder, 5 at the back, and that's what we did. You know, I talked about it before, that kind of revolution of the 3-5-2, the overlapping centre halves. But really, he built his entire system and his entire style around something that he would just call tactical overloads. Now, whatever formation he plays, because he has changed his formation with United, he moved us into a 4-2-3-1 last season. We played with wingers. We played a completely different setup. But it was still all built around the same kind of tactical system. And like I say, he called it tactical overloads. What that effectively means is you isolate a defender and you get them 2-on-1. Wherever another defender is going to come and cover it to make it 2-on-2, you then have a third player ready to drop in. So that'll either be your full-back and your wing-back double up, and then your number 10 slots into the hole to fill that in a 3-on-2 overload, or you either spread your striker. So your striker will also sometimes go out to make that run, or in the most extreme circumstances, your centre half will go there and make the 3-on-2. But that's how he built his system. So he wants that kind of 3-on-2 positions out wide to give you the opportunity to then get balls driven across the box. It's not usually in the air. I think we scored 2 headers in the entirety of last season. It's usually trying to create the space so you can work chances in the box for people to sort of have a moment, take a touch, find the back of the net.
And comparing the two, so if you could go with either manager, taking your Sheffield United head off for a moment regarding the love for Chris Wilder. So Cifuentes and Wilder, what do you think in regarding the better managers in that?
I think it depends what you want from Leicester Football Club, in all honesty, because I think this is a really interesting dynamic, because I think you've got somebody who is consistent. If you want to try and finish 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, I think you do absolutely spot on. Obviously, this is points deduction and other things dependent. I don't know what the full story is, if I'm being honest. But Wilder will guarantee you one of the top 6 places, but I don't think he guarantees you that your leads from last season and you get 105 points and it's exciting and it's fun and you have a brilliant afternoon. You get results, but you have to accept that the main focus is the results. I think if you get Cifuentes, I can't you wouldn't have the same guarantee of the results. I don't think I could say to you, you'd definitely be in the top 6, but I think it would be a lot more fun in terms of the journey and how you're watching the football. So if you're going for entertainment and you want somebody who might get you 110 points and might be the manager of your dreams, Cifuentes is the man. If you want a guaranteed, you're going to finish somewhere between 80 and 90 points, Chris Wilder's the man for that.
Fair enough. Love the comparison. That's what Leicester fans want to see. A bit of a comparison to both, to be fair, because Chris Wilder's name, when it is mentioned, it's like, it's not the style that we want to play. It's because our owner is very much of the thinking process. I want to play the modern style of football. It's very data-driven. They want that type of manager. Chris Wilder isn't that, is he? Let's be fair.
The reason Chris Wilder just left Sheffield United is that we wanted to move to a data-driven AI recruitment system, and he refused to do it.
Yeah, because I know he didn't do well at Middlesbrough and Watford. He done well at Northampton, but Sheffield United is his very much loved club, and he's done well at both times. He's been there, playoffs, promotions, but it's just not it's the Premier League bloody worst record thing that you've got in it regarding, is it most goals conceded?
Yeah, just like 104.
He's not going to keep you there. That's how it is with him. But he is a one-man club, really. He is a blade, and that's where his best days are. So maybe in the future you'll appoint him, just like Crystal Palace appointed Roy Hodgson a lot of the time. So we'll see.
I could see him coming back, certainly, because it's one of those, especially the way he's left. You leave after the playoff final, he'll think there's unfinished business. I'm sure the fans think there's unfinished business. So, yeah, there's every chance he might steal him back at Bramall Lane at some point in the not-too-distant future.
That's it. Ollie, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. Giving me the insight into Cifuentes and Sheffield United's Chris Wilder. What's coming up on the Sheffield United way, mate?
Yeah, so obviously it's pre-season content at this moment. So we're starting to look at our 1-24s and how the league's going to start to come together. We'll do all of our Sheffield United transfer pre-season content as well, looking at everybody who comes in. And then once the season starts, that's just go mode. So it's match previews, match reactions, tactical breakdowns of how the games have gone, and all kinds of content following the Blades. Also, just shouting out my EFL podcast. So I do the EFL Debate podcast with Gab Sutton. You can follow us on Twitter or YouTube, where we every Monday get together to talk about every team in the Championship. We go through reviews of the weekend's performances, and we get fans on to come and tell us about what they're feeling about their club and get them to give their perspective first and foremost.
Bloody, I don't think you'd want me on anytime soon regarding Leicester City, the mess we're in. I think there'll be a bit of home truth maybe, but let's just say the club's not in stable mode at the minute. Let's be fair. We need a manager through the door. We need a kit. We need a sponsor. We need bloody everything. We're well behind the schedule, and we've got to move quickly now. So, Ollie, I will catch up with you next season. All the best, and I'll catch you soon.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Ollie, mate. That was Ollie from the Sheffield United Way. Big up to James from the Hoops and Dreams, giving us the insight into Marti Cifuentes. Great fan insight on both potential managers. That's what it is. Cifuentes and Chris Wilder look very much like the final two. Roll is out of the picture. Sean Dyche out of the picture. Gary O'Neill ruled out. These two are the only two men left here. Well, it looked like Chris Wilder had the opening field to get the Leicester City job, like a bloody Mario calling in it on Mario Super Mario Bros. But yeah, Leicester need to appoint a manager in quick. Let's be fair. Well, Ross Howard has Leicester City bedsheets. Pass it on. Well, I don't know if the viewers want to know that, but the news is out there apparently. So, yeah, that is it. Take care. Have a great rest of the evening, whatever you're up to. Thanks for watching. We hope we've gave a great insight into both managers, so we'll let you make your choice of who you want. But in the comments, is it Cifuentes? Is it Chris Wilder? Let me know which one you're picking quickly before we end this stream. We have got a lot more to discuss regarding Leicester City in the upcoming season. We are going to do the Championship predictions to where we think everyone's going to finish this season. where do I think Leicester's going to finish taking into their points deduction scenario and all that. It all depends. If it's minus 15, I think we can push for the playoffs realistically, but it all depends on the manager as well, doesn't it? And the players that we keep and the players that we bring in. There's really been nothing on Connor Cody since. Hopefully, though, the new manager does keep Andy King in the backroom staff. Thanks, Jack. Bet suspended means it's done. Cifuentes, cheers, Jack. Roll over Beethoven and tell Cifuentes the news. Well, take care. Have a great rest of the evening. Keep it at the final whistle. Catch you soon.